So I think it's also a good time now to move into the topic of business agility, which is the main theme for today. So maybe if you can explain again what is business agility in short, and why did you come up with the institution? It's pretty interesting to me.
What is business agility? Let me give you the definition as we define it. Business agility is a set of organizational capabilities, behaviors, and ways of working that afford your business the freedom, flexibility, and resilience to achieve its purpose, no matter what the future brings. So let me touch into a couple of things. Capabilities, behaviors, and ways of working. In reverse order, the ways of working is what you do. The behaviors is what you're expressing. And the capabilities is what you've achieved. If you've got those three, then you've got a good foundation for business agility. Many organizations will adopt the ways of working, but they don't change the behaviors and they don't create new capabilities in the organization. And so would say that they're doing agile, not being agile. And that's unfortunately quite limiting. So you need all three to be effective. The second point I want to highlight is to achieve its purpose or to achieve your purpose. Organizations exist for a reason, and that reason is sometimes very obvious. We exist to serve a customer. We build a product, we serve a customer in a particular way. In some cases, it might be a little bit more hidden, a government organization or a not-for-profit. But there's a great quote by Frederick Laloux. Profit is like the air. We do not live to breathe, but we do need to breathe in order to live. So what does that mean? As an organization, your purpose isn't to make money. Your purpose is to serve your customers. Making money is how you know you've served your customers. And so we see a lot of organizations get that round the wrong way. The customer is secondary to making money, and those companies tend not to last more than 5 to 10 years. Those companies who get that customer centricity are the ones who, especially right now, in a very dynamic, very unpredictable market, are the ones who are doing quite well. There's another concept called job to be done. The concept of job to be done is when you go and buy a drill, you're not buying a drill because you want to drill. You're buying a drill because you want a hole, and you want a hole because you want to put up a set of shelves. So that drill company isn't in the market of selling drills. They're in the market of selling holes and helping you build things. So if there is some issue with the sale of drills, for example, there are supplier problems or regulatory issues, or the EU says you can't sell to them anymore, you can't import drills for whatever reason. I know that's a silly example, but just bear with me. Those organizations who see themselves as we sell drills have a problem. Those organizations who see themselves as we serve our customers to create holes, they're the ones who can then look at that problem from a different perspective and go, how else can we serve this customer? How else can we sell, or what else can we do? What else can we sell that enables the customer to do what they want to do without selling this drill that we can no longer sell for whatever reason? That's a silly example, but there are real fundamental cases where that's true. Look at Kodak. Kodak believed they were in the market of selling chemicals and machines to print shops to allow print shops to print your photos. And so the customer for Kodak was the print shops, not the person who's taking the photographs. They forgot that they were in the market of allowing people to capture memories. Now, it was in their marketing, that Kodak moment kind of thing, but their marketing wasn't replicated in their business. They invented the digital camera, but well, they were so tightly bound to their existing markets, their existing customers, that they forgot who they were in business for, and they paid the price for it.
When you set up this Business Agility Institute, what is the purpose behind it? Why do you think an institute would make a sense for people to join and maybe learn from each other?
Of course. So I actually never set out to create the institute. In 2016, I was in India. I was speaking at Agile India conference, and I was talking about business agility, as it's what I talk about. It's what I've always spoken about. I was with IBM at the time. But afterwards, I was sitting down with a friend of mine, and we were talking about the problems that we had with existing Agile conferences. And don't get me wrong, I love Agile India. Other than 2020, for obvious reasons, I've been to that conference every year for almost 10 years. But when you talk business agility, half the time, everyone in the room nods and goes, yes, we need this. But they go back to their offices and nothing changes. And so I was lamenting, I was very frustrated about this to my friend. And she said, well, why don't you create a business agility conference? And I was like, all right, I will. So in 2017, we launched the first business agility conference. This was in New York. I was living in Singapore at the time. I have to admit, running a global conference, literally the opposite side, it was a 12-hour time zone difference. It was not pleasant. But I walked into that room. I had a fairly arrogant assumption. I assumed, because I've been talking about business agility for, at that point, 8 or 9 years. I thought that I would know most people in the room, 80%. I was wrong. I knew maybe 20%, maybe less, maybe 10% of the companies and the people in that room. We sold out, by the way. It was a huge success. What this exposed to me was that there was this untapped pain. People wanted to talk about business agility. They wanted a space to call their own that wasn't in the agile world, that wasn't in the technology world, but where a CFO and a CHRO and a transformation consultant and people who were wanting to see businesses change, to create a space whereby they could have that conversation. So the conference was a success. And after the conference, we started planning the next event, which was obviously a year away. Completely coincidentally, I had to move from Singapore back to Australia for family reasons. I do miss Singapore. I'd move back there in a heartbeat if I could. I love Singapore. But so I had to move back for family reasons. And so I had to resign from IBM because I was employed by IBM Singapore. I'm there going, what do I do? I've got to get back to Australia. I could join IBM Australia. IBM Singapore was pretty good. I enjoyed IBM Singapore. I didn't think I'd enjoy IBM Australia anywhere near as much as I enjoyed the work I was doing at IBM Singapore. Do I join another consultancy? Or do I join a firm like a bank and help them with their transformation? There was nothing in my heart that sort of went, yes, that's what I want to do. I kind of felt that part of my career was over, paid well, and I certainly was making an impact. But I then thought about what I enjoyed, and I thought about the conference. I thought about the impact we'd had. I was talking to a gentleman called Ahmed Sidki, and I was saying, it's like, I don't want to run events. I'm not an event planner. The event is a means to an end. It's a way of bringing people together. Is it possible to create a business that brings people together? And that's where the Institute formed from, is to create that space for those conversations. Now, I'm going to jump forward 6 months because when we started, we had a particular vision. We were going to do events around the world. We were going to have a library of content and material to inform people about business agility. About 6 months later, I was actually, ironically, at the same conference in India where this whole thing started. I was listening to a talk by a lady called Linda Rising. She's amazing. If you've never heard her speak, I suggest you check out some of her YouTube videos. She got her PhD in information technology, I think, when she was 60 or something. Absolutely brilliant. And she said, ironically, the plural of anecdote is not data. Now, that's actually an incorrect quote, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why. But her point, which was very valid, in the agile, and in my case, business agility environment, so much of what we do is based on anecdote. It worked for me here, therefore it'll work for me there, or it'll work for you there. And the assumption that because I've got it, I've done it once, it must be true. She was lamenting the lack of good evidence and research. I realized at that moment in that talk that we were one of the few organizations who could, because we weren't selling services, we weren't selling consulting. So if we were to do research, it could be trusted because we would never sell services based on that research. With all respect to a lot of the other organizations in this space, they're either selling consulting, they're selling certification. And so if they say agile is great, and then in the next email, they're saying, buy our services or become a certified X, the credibility isn't there. I'm not saying they're wrong, but the credibility isn't there. So we decided that we would become a research institute. So we actually shifted gear after about 6 months. This is what business agility is. It's about changing what you do to better serve your customers. So we became a research organization. So now we're that professional association. We still have the event in New York, and we have a couple of others around the world, but we've actually scaled back events. Actually, we started scaling back events before COVID, which seems prescient now. We now have 14 research teams. We just launched our research on agility, on the relationship between agility and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The problem with being a research organization is if we have negative findings, we still have to publish them. Let's just put it this way. Agile organizations do not score well in general in terms of DE&I. In many cases, it's not because they're doing Agile badly, it's because of Agile. So there are things that need to be done to improve some of the Agile practices and frameworks to embed D&I better into them. Sometimes we have to publish things that actually say, hey, maybe we're not so crash hot after all.